everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want you to listen carefully because what I'm about to explain might feel uncomfortable, but it could completely change the way you see her silence. If you've been wondering why she still hasn't reached out, why she watches your stories, why she seems distant yet not fully gone, this is not random. There is a psychological reason behind it, and once you understand it, you will stop misinterpreting her behavior as rejection and start seeing the hidden emotional conflict at play. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe and like this video so you don't miss more insights like this that can help you understand relationships on a deeper level. Now, let's be honest. When someone disappears, most men assume the feelings are gone. Silence gets translated into indifference, and absence gets mistaken for closure. But human emotions are rarely that clean, especially when attachment has already formed. When a woman has shared emotional intimacy with you, her mind does not simply switch off because communication stopped. Instead, her feelings can linger in a suspended state where she is processing internally rather than expressing externally. This is where many men misread the situation. Her silence does not always mean she has moved on. In many cases, silence is a sign of internal tension. She may be trying to regain control over her emotions or protect herself from vulnerability. Sometimes, she is waiting to see what you will do, not because she lacks feelings, but because she is uncertain about the direction of the connection. Other times, she is comparing her emotional experience with you to her expectations of how things should have been, creating a quiet conflict within her mind. What you must understand is that feelings do not disappear instantly, but expression of those feelings can be suppressed. And when expression is suppressed, behavior changes. She may appear distant, yet still check in on your presence indirectly. This contradiction is not confusion, it is emotional restraint. And emotional restraint often comes from unresolved attachment rather than absence of it. But here is the part most men overlook. Her silence can be a self-protective pause, not a final decision, meaning she is still emotionally active, just not visibly expressive. And that difference is where clarity begins for you. Pay attention, because understanding this will prevent you from chasing illusions. Stay focused. Listen closely, because her silence is not empty, it is active. When a woman withdraws communication, her mind often enters a reflective loop where she replays moments, evaluates emotions, and measures the value of the connection she had with you. This is not always a conscious decision. It is a psychological process shaped by attachment, pride, and emotional self-protection. In this state, she may feel pulled between two forces, the memory of what felt good and the uncertainty of what led to distance. That internal conflict can keep her from reaching out, even if part of her still wants to. But silence also serves as a form of emotional regulation. By stepping back, she regains a sense of control over her feelings, especially if the connection once felt intense or uncertain. In some cases, she is waiting for clarity, not because she expects you to chase, but because she needs to observe whether the emotional environment feels safe to return to. Safety for her is not only physical, it is emotional, and it is built on consistency, trust, and perceived stability. When those elements feel unclear, silence becomes a shield rather than a signal of indifference. You must recognize that her absence of words does not always equal absence of feeling. It often reflects a decision to pause, to process, and to protect what she still experiences internally while she decides how or whether to re-engage moving forward. Meanwhile, her behavior may appear neutral or even detached, but subtle signs often remain, such as occasional views of your content, indirect curiosity, or a reluctance to fully close the door. These signals are not guarantees, but they indicate that emotional engagement has not been completely extinguished. For you, the key is not to overinterpret every action, but to understand the underlying psychology that drives inaction as much as action. Because what she is not saying can sometimes reveal more than what she ever would express directly. When you grasp this, you stop reacting emotionally to silence and start responding with awareness instead. That shift alone separates those who spiral in confusion from those who maintain composure and clarity in uncertain situations. Understanding her silence is not about decoding every detail, It is about recognizing patterns, respecting emotional processes, and allowing yourself to see reality without assumptions that distort your judgment. Stay grounded and observe before you conclude anything definitive about her. Now I want you to confront something most men avoid, because it challenges ego more than logic. Just because she still has feelings does not automatically mean she is ready, willing, or able to act on them. Emotional attachment and behavioral action are two very different things. A woman can feel something deeply and still choose silence as her response. This is where many men misinterpret her position and create unnecessary frustration for themselves. They assume that feelings should naturally lead to communication, but in reality, emotions often coexist with hesitation, doubt, or even internal conflict about what to do next. Her silence may be influenced by her perception of outcomes. She is not only thinking about how she feels, she is also considering what happens if she reopens communication. Will the dynamic be the same, better, or worse? Will she feel secure, or will she feel exposed again? These questions are often unspoken, yet they guide her behavior. If a previous interaction left emotional uncertainty, she may choose distance as a way to protect herself from repeating that experience. This does not erase her feelings, it simply means her feelings are not strong enough, at least in that moment, to override her need for emotional safety. Another factor at play is pride. Pride is not arrogance, it is self-preservation. Reaching out can feel like vulnerability, and vulnerability carries risk. If she is unsure how you perceive her or how you will respond, silence can feel safer than taking that emotional step forward. She may also be observing whether you demonstrate stability, growth, or consistency over time. In her mind, actions often speak louder than words, and she may be evaluating you quietly without informing you of that process. At the same time, her silence can also be a test of detachment. Not a game in the superficial sense, but a subconscious evaluation of emotional balance. If she feels that reconnecting would create imbalance, confusion, or emotional dependency, she may resist acting on her feelings. This creates a situation where her internal experience says one thing, but her external behavior says another. To an untrained eye, this looks like disinterest, but in reality, it is often restraint shaped by uncertainty and self-protection. What you must take from this is simple, yet powerful. Feelings alone do not dictate behavior. Circumstances, perception, timing, and emotional safety all influence whether those feelings are expressed or suppressed. When you understand this, you stop expecting her to act purely based on emotion, and you begin to see silence as part of a larger psychological equation rather than a final answer. At this point, you need to understand a subtle but critical dynamic that most men overlook entirely. Her silence is not only about her internal world, it is also about how she perceives you in relation to that world. Women often associate emotional engagement with stability, consistency, and direction. When those elements feel unclear, they tend to step back rather than move forward. This does not mean she has stopped caring. It means her mind is evaluating whether re-engaging with you aligns with her emotional standards and long-term expectations. In many cases, she is not waiting passively, she is observing. Even in silence, she may be paying attention to how you carry yourself, how you respond to distance, and whether your life appears stable or reactive. These observations help her form a conclusion about whether reconnecting would lead to something grounded or something unpredictable. From a psychological standpoint, uncertainty reduces emotional willingness. The more uncertain she feels about the outcome, the more likely she is to remain silent, even if feelings are present beneath the surface. Another layer to consider is emotional pacing. If the connection between you moved too quickly, became too intense, or lacked balance, she may intentionally slow things down by withdrawing. This is not necessarily rejection, it is regulation. She is trying to bring her emotional state back to equilibrium. In her mind, silence creates space, and space allows clarity to develop. Without that space, she may feel overwhelmed or unable to process her own emotions properly. It is also important to recognize that silence can protect her from misalignment. If she senses that reconnecting would lead to the same patterns that caused distance before, she may choose not to re-enter that cycle. This decision is not always conscious, but it is influenced by memory, emotional residue, and learned experience. In other words, she is not just responding to how she feels right now, she is responding to what she has felt before and what she predicts might happen again. For you, this is where awareness becomes essential. Instead of asking why she is not speaking, the more accurate question becomes what her silence says about her perception of the situation as a whole. Because her feelings alone do not drive her actions, her evaluation of safety, stability, and emotional outcome plays an equal role. When you understand this, you stop taking silence personally and start interpreting it as part of a broader decision-making process happening quietly in the background. Now let's address something that can shift your entire perspective if you take it seriously. Silence is not only about her, it is also about the dynamic between the two of you. When communication stops, a vacuum is created, and in that vacuum, both emotion and interpretation begin to evolve. She is no longer reacting to your presence in real time. She is relying on memory, impression, and internal dialogue. This means the way she remembers the connection becomes just as important as how it actually was. If the last emotional experience she associates with you felt unresolved, confusing, or incomplete, her silence may be her way of preserving distance while she organizes her thoughts. Humans tend to avoid re-entering situations that feel mentally unfinished. Closure, whether achieved through conversation or internal processing, plays a major role in whether someone is willing to reconnect. Without closure, silence often continues, not because feelings are gone, but because the emotional narrative is still open. At the same time, her silence may also reflect a shift in emotional priorities. Life circumstances, personal growth, stress, or new environments can influence how much mental space she has available for past connections. Even when feelings remain, they may no longer be at the forefront of her attention. In this case, silence does not indicate absence of emotion, but rather a reallocation of focus. Her mind may be occupied with other aspects of her life, while her feelings for you exist quietly in the background rather than actively guiding her behavior. Another important aspect is emotional contrast. If she experienced moments of strong connection followed by inconsistency, her mind may associate the relationship with unpredictability. Over time, the brain learns to protect itself from repeated emotional highs and lows by choosing distance. This protective mechanism can look like detachment, but it is actually a response designed to avoid internal discomfort. For you, the lesson here is to stop viewing silence as a single signal with a single meaning. It is a layered response influenced by memory, emotion, perception, and life context. She may still have feelings, but those feelings exist within a larger framework of evaluation and self-regulation. When you begin to understand that framework, you gain clarity that most people never reach. Instead of reacting to what is missing, you start recognizing what is quietly influencing the situation behind the scenes, and that awareness allows you to respond with patience, composure, and a far more accurate understanding of reality. Now we arrive at the truth that most people don't want to hear, but it is the one that gives you real control over how you move forward. Even if she still has feelings, her silence ultimately reflects her current choice, not just her emotions. Feelings can exist without action, and action is what determines the direction of a connection. This means you cannot build your decisions on the assumption that her internal world will eventually express itself externally. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it does not. The only thing you can reliably interpret is what she chooses to do, not what she may be feeling in private. From a psychological perspective, silence can persist as long as the perceived benefits of staying silent outweigh the perceived benefits of reconnecting. That balance is influenced by clarity, trust, emotional safety, and the expectation of a positive outcome. If those elements are not strong enough, her mind will default to inaction, even if feelings remain. This is why time alone does not guarantee a change in behavior. Without a shift in perception, her silence can continue indefinitely. For you, the most powerful position you can take is not one of chasing answers, but one of maintaining self-respect and emotional stability. When a man becomes overly focused on decoding her silence, he often loses sight of his own direction. But when he understands that her silence is a reflection of her internal evaluation, he stops personalizing it and starts focusing on what he can control, his own mindset, habits, and growth. There is also an important distinction you must make between possibility and probability. Yes, it is possible that she still has feelings. However, the probability of those feelings translating into action depends on factors beyond your control. Accepting this reality does not make you passive, it makes you grounded. It prevents you from building expectations that keep you stuck in uncertainty. In the end, her silence is not just a message about her, it is a mirror of the situation as it currently stands. If she chooses to reappear, it will be because something within her perception has shifted enough to overcome hesitation. Until then, the healthiest and most powerful thing you can do is remain centered, observant, and emotionally independent. Because when you stop waiting for silence to turn into clarity, you create clarity within yourself. And that is the one thing that no one else's behavior can take away from you.